mandolin, wazuya moga mandolin. Yek disaka festa goshien fokkan golle. Verina bodalo wazon astana missa. Luti de parolo yeka chudvacha pasa gari de rogaden parole mogacha pasa. Yago kandolin, wazuya moga mandolin. Yago kandolin, wazuya moga mandolin. Yago kandolin, wazuya moga.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for me to introduce to you the first panel discussion of the day. Old is gold, decades of restaurant wisdom. So ladies and gentlemen, for all the people that are here in the house, we did have a session yesterday and we did have some very established names of business who came up, shared their wisdom, their experience, their journey, the entire trajectory. But what is coming up on the stage now is literally an education of sorts. The people that are joining us on the stage as panelists, as chairpersons, are truly what you call legacy businesses in hospitality in India. Each one of them a name to reckon with, each one of them a power to reckon with. They are people who have grown through various cycles, the ups and downs of the market, various reforms, various laws, business cycles. There is no element of economic weather or global weather that has left them untouched. And yet, they have weathered it all. They have weathered it all to a point where they have become legends. They have become icons. Not only do the people look up to them, but at the same time, after decades and decades of being in existence, some of them actually having been founded even prior to independence, some opening their eyes right at the time when India was opening its eyes in 1947 at the crack of independence. These are names and businesses that have grown as India has grown. And now they are in the process of contemporizing, addressing the needs of contemporary population, and how are they changing the game. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to introduce each one of these legendary participants for this panel, I would like to invite on stage the Secretary General of FHRAI. Please put your hands up for Ms. Trupti.
Thanks, Ruchika. So our moderator for today is Mr. Kamlesh Barot. Kamlesh Barot is the director of V Hospitality Private Limited and Barot Hotels Private Limited, which operates the award-winning sub-brand Revival. He has been active in the hospitality industry since 1947, expanding from the single outlet in Crawford Market, Mumbai, to over 65 hotels and restaurants in India and abroad. Kamlesh holds a commerce degree from Mumbai University and diploma from Dadar Catering College. He serves as a president of FHRAI in 2011 till 2012 and HRAI in 2010 till 2012. Co-chaired the IMC Tourism Committee and was a founder partner of the Steer Academy of Bartendering. He was contributed to the industry publications and held various educational roles. Mr. Barot was awarded the Young Restaurant Entrepreneur of the Year 2004 by FHRAI. Our today's panelists are Mr. Deepak Puri. Mr. Deepak Puri is a partner at Trinkas, an iconic restaurant on Calcutta's Park Street. He has helped preserve its legacy while modernizing its offering. Trinkas began as a tea room in 1927 and later became an iconic restaurant on Calcutta's Park Street in 1950s. Over the years, it evolved into cultural landmark. Mr. Jigan Damodar Swamy is the CEO of the Annapurna restaurant, Coimbatore, a third-generation entrepreneur with over 17 years of experience. He holds the master's in food technology from the University of Georgia. After working with major US food brands, he joined his family business in 2007. In 2011, he co-founded Damodar Foods, a private label manufacturer serving top brands like Big Basket and Flipkart. with exports of export to multiple countries. Jegan is also an advocate for professionalizing the food industry and serves on several boards and committees. Mr. Farzad Jehani is the partner at Leopold Cafe, one of the Mumbai's iconic establishment located in Kolaba, with a long-standing history dating back to 1871. Leopold Cafe is known for its rich heritage, vibrant atmosphere, and popularity among locals and tourists. Under Mr. Farzad's leadership, the cafe continues to thrive as a culture and culinary landmark in the city. Mr. Namit Gulati is our last panelist, and he's the director of the Gulati restaurant, which started in 1959 in New Delhi and opened a branch in Gurgaon in 2022. Renowned for its North Indian cuisine, the restaurant has received awards for its butter chicken, dum biryani and dal makhani, maintaining its status as an iconic dining destination in the region. May I request all the panelists and the moderator, Mr. Kamlesh Barot, to come on this dais, please. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, walking up, the partner for Leopold Cafe and Bar, Mr. Farzad Jehani.
I'm Farzad Jehani, one of the partners of Leopold Cafe. Leopold and Company was established in 1871. It was an oil merchant, it was a chemist, it was a wine shop, and then it was a departmental store. During the British era, my father and the other partners got together and added cafe to it. So it is called Leopold Cafe and Stores. For 45 years, my brother and myself, we looked after Leopold, and we brought it to a stage of Leopold Cafe and Bar. During our lifetime, we saw different phases that Leopold went through. One was like the hippie phase, the backpackers, the Arabs, and now we have the expats. We have, after the 2611, we have the local Mumbaikars and people from all over India as well as internationally. On 2611, everybody knows about, we went through a bad phase. South Mumbai was the worst. So there was a worry whether what would happen when I have to open Leopold. Fortunately, on the fourth day that we opened, Leopold, the 4 customers that walked in were ladies. Then I said to myself, there's no looking back. Yes, we were successful from there on. We've always been successful. I would like to thank everybody who has visited Leopold and for all those customers that have come to Leopold and made Leopold proud. It is thank you to all my staff too that has given good service, especially to my kitchen staff that has made our food palatable, delicious for you people to keep coming to Leopold again and again. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, walking up now, the partner for the iconic Trinkas Kolkata, Mr. Deepak Puri.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here, and I am grateful for being given this opportunity to portray what Trinkas is and what it means to the people of Calcutta. The brand goes back to 1927, and it started with a gentleman called Mr. Trinka. That's why the name is not a very familiar name, because he was a Swiss gentleman, and the restaurant was known as Trinkas, means belonging to Mr. Trinka. It's been a Swiss confectionery, a tea room, a nightclub, restaurant, bar, And it has, over the years, been linked to Calcutta in a way which makes it iconic. It's been a platform for artists to shine, examples being Bidu, Usha Uttup, she started as Usha Iyer, and many such personalities who found a venue to showcase their talent. Today, we are a restaurant serving multi-cuisine food with music 365 days a year. We have Western and Indian music every evening. We have jazz-filled afternoons every weekend, and also karaoke during the weekdays. A little bit of how we have survived is, I know that old is gold sounds very good, but it can differ in value in the sense that I would rather call Trinkas a brand that is classic than old, because I think we have maintained our vintage, but stayed with the times. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, continue the applause as walking up on the stage now, our sessions chair as well, Mr. Kamlesh Barot, the Director, V Hospitality.
Thank you. Thank you, friends. Usually you have the moderator come up first and then the panelists are called up, but we wanted to break the tradition. In 1947, about 77 years back, a small village which was on the border of Gujarat and Rajasthan, known as Palanpur, also famous for the diamond merchants, had two young men, aged 18 and 15, start their journey in 47 and come to Mumbai. So in the 50s, they started a small tea place in the hub of Crawford Market, which was that time the main business center in the south of Mumbai. The 50s went in establishing those restaurants, about 5 shops from each other, and today any marketing guru will say you can't have 2 outlets so close by, but then it survived all these years. In the 60s, there was a huge bottleneck of the unions. As you know, George Fernandez, Tata Samant, all of them, they created picketing and all of that, which for today's youngsters is a word they'll have to look up in the dictionary. But then those days, we all know all the legacy restaurants have somehow or the other time faced this huge backlash of the unions. So the 60s for these gentlemen was a nightmare. So when they started back in the 70s, long queues, we started going in from our schools on the weekends. They started doing their business more so from that clan which was dominated by the Shettis and the Punjabis in the space of hotel and restaurants. A Gujju who was out of the box. And we used to hear people from the industry stand on the opposite side of the pavement and keep peeping, what is this queue about and what is happening over here in this space. They used to supply food to Taj, and when my dad told me this, I never believed him. But then when I went back to Ajit Kerkar, our President of Honor, and I said, sir, my dad is bluffing that he's been supplying food to Taj those days at Kulaba. So I took my dad along and sat with ABK, and he said, Mr. Gotla, and ABK says, yes, there was one Mr. Gotla who was going to the markets and buying up a lot of stuff. I know he wasn't bluffing. But then from there, we had the film stars and there were two young Muslim ladies who I used to see at the cash counter come over and ask for dahi vada parcels for about 20-25 plates. And ultimately, on probing a lot, it came to light that it was for Mr. Dilip Kumar than anybody else. In the 80s again, there was one kind of a movement in Maharashtra where they said land, soil, this, that. Everybody else who's not Maharashtrians should go back to their own states. And therefore, these two gentlemen thought, let's go back to Gujarat and start an establishment there. And that's how the Rajdhani came in, the Revival Hotel and everything came in, and we had the foray into hotels, accommodation from restaurants. And then in the 90s, the entire decade went by, we created our IPO, and then Revival started at Chapati, and looking at the 5 Cs, we actually started copying a lot of stuff from there. And it came about that Malvika Sanghvi had started Bombay Times those days after Busy Bee, and there was page 3. And a lot of our stuff started showing up there, and then everybody started following, so that's a different story. The year 2000 for us went into franchising, and that was the first time that we franchised kind of management contract and started doing hotels, restaurants and everything in those days. 2010, we started moving abroad. So there was Vietnam and Sydney and Dubai and Thailand, of all the places to start with. A figure that actually touched 100 just recently in owned and managed properties. 2010 was when we actually started recouping with COVID and all of this. So the only business that we know about is hospitality, and something that we've been raving about, knowing the entire verticals of this industry. So probably that's where I'll leave the stage to Mr. Namit to come.
Restaurateur to the generations and generations of Delhiites and of course all over India now, Mr. Namit Gulati of Gulati Restaurant.
I'm the director of Gulati Restaurant New Delhi and Gurugram. I'm an MBA in marketing and finance. I joined the family business in 2011 and have been associated with it since then. We started our restaurant in 1959 as a small dhaba, and with all the dedication, hard work, passion, we have completely transformed the restaurant into a world-famous fine dining restaurant today. We also have a branch in Gurugram. We opened it in 2022 and gave it a modern and classier look. We have been awarded by TripAdvisor for the last 9 years as a certificate of excellence. We are famous for North Indian, Mughlai and Hyderabadi cuisine. Our USP is not a particular dish. Our USP is our brand Gulatis. People have given us so much of love, and they also trust and they believe that whatever dish they'll order from us or whatever they will choose from the menu, it will be the best. Thank you.
And finally, on the stage now, Mr. Jagan S. Damodar Sami, the CEO of Annapurna Restaurants. Thousands of people start and end their days here with Annapurna.
Hi, good morning everyone. I guess they saved the best for the last, huh? Okay, just kidding. Anyway, like Kamlesh said, we didn't want to come in order because Kamlesh thought the oldest brand should come in first and the youngest brand should come in last, and I think that's really great to honor the great Leopold Cafe. Anyway, just to give you a small update on what we do and who we are and where I'm from. I'm Jagan, I'm the CEO of Annapurna Group in Coimbatore. We own and operate about 20 restaurants in the district of Coimbatore and one just outside. We are a third generation family-owned business. It was started by my grandfather and his brothers in the 1960s. We started as a small coffee shop selling filter coffee and snacks in a cinema in Coimbatore. And through sheer hard work and their focus on quality and taste, I think they've grown us to wherever we are today. I started in this business about 17 years ago, right after I finished my master's and I was working in the US, and I entered the business in 2008. This business, I think the main reason, Kamlesh, I think this whole old is gold, the reason we are here, is to kind of tell people that this is a business where you can be in it for the long term. Because mostly today, everything is a numbers game. You know, today all the new startups, they're only talking about how many outlets they're going to put, how many revenue, how many X is going to be the valuation, when they want to sell. So even before I start today, I'm thinking about selling. So I don't know where the passion is, I don't know where the dream is, I don't know where the founding principles are, you know. So I think by listening to these amazing people, all of us here, I hope we inspire you to kind of continue your journey in this restaurant or whatever hotel industry. You know, this is, you know, an industry that keeps on giving. It's third generation. We have about 3,000 people working for us in the 20 restaurants, all large format restaurants, and we've done extremely well. We've changed with the times, you know, everything. We've kind of professionalized what we do, but we still stay very, very strong to our roots. You know, what our forefathers taught us, what our culture is. So that is what has kind of driven us to where we are today. I think the main reason that we've survived so many years is, I would say, three. One is the absolute focus on quality and taste. Number two is the focus on the well-being of our employees. And number three, I don't want you to take this lightly, is because there is no PE or VC backing us. Okay? There is nobody that tells us that I have to put so many outlets in the next 3 to 5 years. There's nobody that is sitting at the table who Thank you. There's nobody at the table telling me how I should run my business, what I should do, what I should focus on, what is important, what's not important. So, thank you for giving this opportunity. It's an absolute pleasure and an honor to share the dais with these amazing brands and the people running it. Thank you so much.
Welcome. I was not able to shake hands with them before because you all came before me. So friends, we are talking today about a 500-year-old legacy sitting in this dais, and when Dinesh told me you got to do this session with people who are in this business for decades together, I actually was looking at somebody who was closer to home. But what the committee did was they chose somebody from the north, somebody from the south, somebody from the west and the east. So we have east, west, south and north. So probably for us, the entire FHRAI spectrum of restaurant industry is sitting on the stage today. We are definitely legends in our own scope, but if you Google yourself, you will find that the oldest restaurant that is shown today on Google is Sobrina di Botin in Madrid, which is running since 1725, and for the last 300 years, their wood-fired oven has not extinguished, it's continuously on, but that's a myth. Actually, if you really go deeper, you find Stiftskeller St. Peter, which is open since 803, Zur Letzen Instance, which is open since 1621, and La Tour d'Argent has been open since 1582. So if you look at the world, there are people who've been there for a number of years. We actually have one maxim when I was growing up that never marry a pilot because he'll just bid goodbye and go away. So the pilot was a no-no. Growing up, I actually also came to know that like the pilot, the hotelier also is not there during the festivals and whatnot. So he'll also bid goodbye and go away. So probably what we have been looking at over these years is how does this work-life balance actually open up? We have a live example sitting here in my shoes of a son who migrated abroad and today is working for a corporate F&B establishment having outlets. He calls me and says, Dad, I've never seen a Saturday, a Sunday, 5 o'clock reaching home. I've never seen any festivals which I can celebrate over these last 15, 20 years that I've been in business. So for us, this is an example which says why are people not having this work-life balance? So for us, if you today look at the new generation, you usually would have 3 kids, bring in a chef, and in 6 months, you'll see them partying everywhere with the success of their brand everywhere, and in 6 months they're shut. So the question I had before I started this conversation was 150 years to 50 years, and what happens to these kids in 3 months and 6 months? Why do they shut shop? So there was a thing which happened with our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, when he went to the US. They took him to a long expedition and showed him a 400-year-old bell. So when he came back, he was telling our Indian diaspora there, if you shout out in a small village, in any of our Indian small towns, you will have 50 bells which are 500 years old. When you have success which comes slowly, it builds your character. But when you have the success which comes immediately, you get into an ego trip. So therefore, for me, Dad used to always say, those number of seats that you see in the restaurant are always shouting, which I think even Deepak said. If you don't sell me, I'll sell you off. So I'm actually privileged today to get extract out of these gentlemen. And I've done some little tweaking over there on the topics which I want to, because everybody said, yes, they'll talk. They'll talk about their history, they'll talk about their achievements and everything. But when I called them, none of them wanted to talk about anything. They said, yeah, on the stage we will. So I said, no, nothing doing. We are having this kind of a structure on it, and we will go by this structure. So the first question I want to do is with Jagan to say, how does this succession work? How does today a family which started off with one restaurant has 20 outlets in a radius of 50 kilometers, each one with a 10 to 20,000 square feet outlay, only in that region of Coimbatore serving this food? How does it work?
I think it's easier said than done. I think succession is probably one of the biggest challenges that as family businesses or restaurants that, or any business that has been handed over to generations. I think the biggest challenge that we face is succession. I think, see, for us as people who come in, it's like a relay race. My grandfather ran the first leg and then he gave it to my father's generation. My father's generation ran the second leg and they gave it to me for the third generation. But what happens is, unlike a startup where you have nothing to lose, even if you fail, we have everything to lose. For me, today if I lose, whatever my grandfathers worked for, my parents, my fathers have worked for, everything will go for a toss. So I think succession, it's just not about handing over the business or the keys to the car. It's about kind of building the culture. Because earlier days when we started, we didn't have consultants come in and tell us, put a vision statement, a mission statement, core values, blah blah blah. You get this ISO, nothing. So we were imbibed with these cultures by the way they acted, by the way they actually went about doing their business, talking to customers, handling their employees. That's what was taught to us. So
but Jagan,
I think
what happens is,
yes,
we actually today are known to be people who are sitting on a ready-made cake. And there are people who are on startups and they have a different job satisfaction of doing their own, saying, my father's entire establishments and all are on one side, I have my own. Now, for us to build that kind of sitting on our ready-made establishments which are forefathers, grandfather, father, whoever made.
and that will always be our identity also.
Right.
Whether you like it or not,
Yeah.
it is always going to be identity.
Correct.
I'm always going to be referred to as Jagan from Annapurna.
Right.
Whether I do something separately or not also.
But the question I want to ask the entire delegates here, as well as first on our dais, how many of us are ready to sell our brands? I've sold mine. No. Any hands up over there who's ready to sell their brand? That's the kind of mindset that we have. People don't want to get away from the brand that they have built so mindfully. So I come to the next question now, which is, what happens for a family that has actually never seen unions or anything which is related to labor? Because 60s and 70s back then was a terror. If you had a staff who was more than 3 months old, you had to make sure that he left, somebody else came in, and then the unions had to be given a go-by. Now, if at that time we consulted people, they would say either shut shop and you have no other option but to lock down. Farzad, you were saying there was an instance where you had to lock down?
Yes, in 1968, we had a union problem, and harassment means to the limit. Finally, a day came that my brother and myself, we decided that it's better to shut down than to go on with these people, because all that they are doing is damages and we are not making any money. So in those days, we pulled down the shutters, and today I guess lockdown is illegal, but in those days we could get away with it. And the staff revolted, of course, after we shut down. They said, we will shut you down for 2 months, maybe for 2 years. I told them I've got a capacity of 20 years, so you can do whatever you want. Finally, they realized that they needed money to survive, and the union was not providing them that money. The union always says, we will support you 100%, but when it comes to supporting them, there was nothing was there. They could not have 2 meals in a day. So finally, they came for a settlement, and this got over in less than 2 months' time, and we got them all out.
And gentlemen, let me tell you, I consulted one of the big chains when I had a union problem in my place. And that chain told me, establish your own union and go and buy out these unions. Now, today is a case where we have a problem about retention. We don't have staff who retain, so forget the problem of the unions and everything. We have equal opportunity employment as a maxim which goes in with the newer generation. Deepak, you had a problem with your unions way back. Could you just tell us what happened?
You know, the unions were tough on you in the sense that they were the biggest impediment for you to change anything. You had to consult them if you wanted to serve something a different way, if you wanted to refurbish your establishment. So, and there was this time that, you know, I felt that I was working for the staff rather than for myself. I stayed with them until I got fed up, really. So I put, one of the meetings that we had with this, what they call the Central Committee, they gave me this whole list of demands.
30-odd demands.
30-odd demands. And I did a rough calculation, and I then said, if I give in to this, I don't think I'll last 6 months. So, I just turned around and asked the union leader, I said, you want all this to stay with me. Now tell me, how much will you take to leave me? And then suddenly I became everybody's father, grandfather.
Correct.
And that sort of solved my problem, because I said, listen, I made a chart for them. I said, it's variable DA, this, that, other, I'm not interested in it. Neither do you all know what you're going to get in future. Over the next 5 years, every year, I'll give you these increments. So at the end of 5 years, you will be getting this much. And I expect you to grow my business also proportionately so that I can keep paying you. And that has worked. Of course, COVID solved
sorted out a lot of
lot of problems, in the sense that, again, we gave them the choice. Listen, we don't know if we'll ever open, and we are paying you your salaries, but how long can we keep doing it? So those of you all who feel that, you can do without the job, please take your full settlement now. 80% of them left.
Good. And I guess even it was difficult because for Leo, I think Farzad was telling me a full chicken was thrown in the dustbin behind the backs.
Right.
And this probably today is a different story when he has a manager who's 34 years and working with you. You lead them from the front. Namit also tells me he has a union issue, but then we'll go there at some other time. If you look at something which we discuss about HR, we have today at the best a shortage of staff. How many of you are aware there is a catering college that the FHRAI runs? Any hands up? Oh, quite a few of them. This FIHM today, started many years back, has probably created a record in this year where a lot of catering colleges don't get students, and our FIHM is full with all 62 students this year. So it's something which is an accomplishment. But definitely, we'll talk about this a little later. We have, again, giving an opinion that going to campuses and looking at people who want to join this industry doesn't work, because we are in the restaurants and they all want to go to the 5 stars. And when we do campus interviews, their first question is, "Sir, मेरे घर से कितना दूर है? मेरे को 2 घंटे travel नहीं करना." On onboarding, we were discussing on the panel. How do we probably look at onboarding those days? Was there anything as a process that our forefathers actually had onboarding, or they just said, "कल एक waiter लेके आओ, एक cook को लेके आओ और काम पे लगा देना"? No. I have today, Jagan, who's here, has 3,000 employees and 365 days working 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. with a top level, 0 attrition. And you were saying something about the issues that these people have on dignity, career graph.
Absolutely.
Progression is not there, aspirations are not there. Could you just enlighten us?
No, what I was telling you the other day, Kamlesh, when we were speaking, see, typically a restaurant, a person who's working in a restaurant, it's not an aspirational job. You know, what we discussed, see, even if I give the same amount of salary, let's say I'm paying 25,000 a person, so instead of, you know, if I give him 3 options, one is restaurant, say B is be in engineering or a textile industry, or maybe in the software or BPO industry, for the same salary, everything else being the same, he would always choose the other 2 over the restaurant industry, because he doesn't feel it's aspirational, he doesn't feel, you know, as a society that the respect that he gets or not, it's not there, you know. So that is something, I think, as an industry that we have to start, you know, slowly kind of building, you know, like how you said, even us, we feel that we are not able to be at home during our festivals and holidays and whatnot.
Correct.
So it's still something that those guys at an young age, they find it very difficult to deal with. So to make that aspirational, I think is very important for us to, you know, kind of focus on what they have to do, or what as an industry we have to do, or as a society that we have to do to kind of make it aspirational. See, according to me, any honest job is worth respect. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter, you know, you're in engineering, software, or in the hotel industry. If it is a honest day's work, then it is something that you have to kind of respect, you know.
And for all of us.
Absolutely.
In my establishment, I have this buddy system which works beautifully well. But when I asked all of them, I think each one of them said, "No, we don't have this system which works," because it's something which is at a micromanagement level. We don't want to get there and take things. So there is something known as a service blueprint, which we can get into a little later. Probably on the establishment of creating records, we have certain records that have been maintained and certain awards that have actually been given for our brands. So probably that award is something which creates a kind of an upper edge with celebrities coming and endorsing ourselves. So if you can throw some light, Namit, how is your establishment having all those film stars and anybody down the line come to your establishment?
When we started our restaurant in 1959, and when we transformed the dhaba, it was a dhaba earlier days, and we transformed the dhaba into 1970s. So people used to work with a lot of passion, and they used to do a lot of hard work. And during that time, our focus was only mainly on the customer satisfaction and taking feedbacks from them and working on it and improving it. So with time, we saw that the restaurant was gaining popularity, and even celebrities and people from across the city would come and dine at the restaurant. So Mr. Anupam Kher and Rajesh Khanna, Dara Singh, all have been to our restaurant. And even today, we see that many superstars, many sports personalities, and even business tycoons have been frequenting to our restaurant. So they love our food and they love the famous dishes and everything in the menu. So, but however, we believe that each and every customer who comes to our restaurant is a celebrity. And we give same special treatment that we give to our celebrities, we give the same special treatment to our customers as well. And we always focus on giving the best quality of food and service to all of them.
And I believe you were also telling me there was these SOPs with even Jagan said the entire establishment works on those principles. And we used to find this funny thing about our elders not leaving the cash counter, having their hands juggled with change which was 5, 10 and 25 paise and 50 paise. The hands were black when they went home. Today with the SOPs also, it's something which we as entrepreneurs don't find practicality in the whole thing rolled off on the floor. Where I asked Farzad and he said, no, we don't have SOPs. Deepak said, we're not working. But these two youngsters are working with SOPs. Now, therefore, if you see the difference between a brand which is 150 years old and a brand which is 50 years old, you always find this kind of a dichotomy between them on managing how things work. But ultimately, it's the survival. Establishment, location, and today these new kids down the block, what they feel is, I'll open up my establishment in any corner of the city and I'll have hordes of lines. Now, can you tell me whether this location thing makes a sense for you to be in a particular location, or it doesn't matter, you can be anywhere and people will come to you?
Well, as far as my experience goes, location is very important. You have to be accessible to lots of people. You have to be accessible to, the offices as well as the residences. You have to have some parking on the street. Basically, people should not find it a chore to get to your place. So location is all important, I would say. But besides location, you have to give good service, good food, and a great ambience. Otherwise, you'll just lose your customer. You have to be consistent.
Farzad, you were talking about probably the Iran-Iraq war and how your location stands out. Could you just throw some light how that location has stayed there for 153 years today?
See, in the 80s, we had the Iran-Iraq war, we had the Russian-Afghan war, and all these Iranians that wanted to get away from the war would come to India, tear their passport, and they would try different ways of getting out of the country. So they would make a settlement in Bombay itself. Same way with the Afghanis, they would do the same thing. And eventually, there would be gangs, the Iranian gang, the Afghan gang, and this would go on for quite some time. But slowly by slowly, somehow or the other, these guys managed to get their passport done, whether fake, original, or whatever, and they have left the country. I'm glad that they left the country, but because they were a nuisance value. So, yes, and then coming back to location, yes, this is like repeated 3 times, location. Very important, parking. Very important for us is tourist area where we have tourists coming from all over the world.
And what's the charm of having sitting downstairs and a high ceiling so that anybody passing by?
Yes. Many people, they say, oh, why don't you air cool the place? And over the past years, my father also did tell us, never air cool the place because you will be closing your doors and you will have enclosure inside. Everything, the charm of Leopold is the high ceiling. People sitting inside, seeing people pass by, seeing the traffic pass by. Same way, if we ask tourists that comes to Leopold, we ask them, why don't you sit down in the air-cooled place? Or we ask any Indians to sit in the air-cooled place. They say no. The atmosphere of Leopold is sitting downstairs. So they would want to sit downstairs than going upstairs.
Does it matter today if you are doing your business locally? Are you working on remote? I'll give you my example about how difficult it is to go international. As yesterday also the panelists were talking, there are issues about the visas. There are issues about transferring the money there. How do you have a local water? Like in Dubai, we had a problem with the desalinated water being used for cooking, and it never made that stuff right. So we had to use bottled water all the while. Food always competing with international food there. Regional food always an edge over your food. Operating remotely from here, the owners visiting over there and trying to work, and then the guys coming over and holding you up saying you don't have a visa or a work permit to do your operations. And today in Dubai, there is a fine of 1 lakh to 10 lakh dirhams if you're found working without a work permit. Salaries go up the roof, 35% from the normal 15%. The rent also differs according to the location. So many places had to shut shop because of COVID. You'll have the next establishment want to poach your staff because the work permit and everything is in place. There are vendors which are a problem. There are ingredients which are a problem to source. There are restrictions like the Ramzan and those kind of things. And you have to depend on DMCs and travel agents. And I've actually asked Farzad and Jihan, and they're both ready to start off operations internationally. But definitely there is this problem about operating remotely. So, Jigan, you have this issue about working remote. How is it possible for you to be at every outlet of your 20 outlets at the same time and still operate remotely?
I mean, that's not going to be possible, especially as we grow. You know, yes, there was a time when everything was inside a very small geography where we could actually visit even on a daily basis. But as we grow, that's not going to happen, you know. So that's when, you know, like Namit said, the SOPs are going to play a huge role there.
True.
You know, there are going to be some set parameters, and I think there are some good things that we've learned from the international brands, and some bad things as well. Probably the good things is, you know, how do you professionalize the whole thing? How do you put systems in place, processes in place where, irrespective of where we are, we can still kind of deliver the same kind of experience or same kind of vibe, you know, right from choosing a location, you know, that has to be written down. Sure. Because now, once you start growing, you're not going to be choosing the location. You know, you're going to have somebody else choosing the location. So they need to know what it is that, you know, Annapurna wants, or how much space is needed, is this the right place, how much parking is needed, you know, all that. So I think if you're going to be working remote, and that is the only way if you want to grow, then we need to have processes and I think we are in a place where we have access to communication, to data, where we can do an effective management remotely, not necessarily having to be there.
But I think one advantage we have over operations that are international is you have your licenses fortified because you don't have to go to the BMC or anything. In Dubai, we had our license come by post within a week. So that's something which is the other side of the coin. While here in Mumbai, I have heard Farzad talk about the issues that they have on the name change in the generations that come. So all of us have faced that. Heritage building, where Leopold is today, he wants to do a toilet and it's something which is an issue. I have a problem doing a lift there. And I had a municipal commissioner of Mumbai come over for lunch, and then he came up and said, Kamlesh, there's no lift over here. And I smiled at him saying, sir, your BMC. Deepak, you were telling me about the dry days and other things which Kolkata has never a problem.
Well, Kolkata earlier had a weekly dry day, besides which we had dry days on Independence Day, Republic Day, on Holi, on Eid. Thankfully, now we have only 5 dry days in a year. But we've been differentiated from clubs and 3-star Hotel Plus. They don't have dry days. I don't know why the segregation for the authorities to think about, but thankfully no more dry days.
In terms of competition, we had one discussion, and while we were on the numbers and the branches that we have, when I remember the last time that Homi Aibara was a moderator and I was sitting there, and he said, Kamlesh, 65 outlets, why are pants down? And I said, let me ask these gentlemen. And the answers that I got from Farzad was, I have one establishment and I would like to grow. While Deepak said, one is enough. If my son wants to do something, let him look at how he wants to do. Namit said, I've got 2. I'm open for it. Jigan with 20 is still thirsty for more.
Absolutely.
Is franchise a kind of route that you would like to take? I know, Jigan, you said not franchise, but management contract. This is what something that,
Maybe a franchisee owned, maybe company operated kind of model.
Yeah.
Not like a franchisee operated model.
true. In terms of the food that everybody said, we are all known for three buckets. One is the North Indian bucket, one is the South Indian bucket, and one is the foreign bucket. Now, it's very difficult for us to come out of this mold, and especially when you go abroad and you say, well, I'm going to open an Indian restaurant. How Indian are you? Are you just looking at North Indian? Are you just looking at South Indian? Now, if you look at all of our menus, we are either North Indian or we are South Indian. And as the WWF report, which just came out in 2024, Indian food has the way that saves earth today. For us, when I ask these gentlemen, for them, pan-Indian food, yes. Multi-cuisine, yes. But Namit had something to say about his butter chicken and everything, which I think in your opening remarks you said. If you could just say how these things are popular. People don't even open their menus and just order straight away.
Definitely that happens. People, when they come to a restaurant, they set orders. Like they want to order butter chicken, dal makhani, butter naan, garlic naan. But however, still there are certain people that the younger generation, they want something unique in the menu. They want something which is different. But definitely they want to order butter chicken and dal makhani, that is always there. But they want something unique, and we always try to make some innovations in the menu and work on presentations.
You had the Bihari champaran.
Yeah, we tried our hands in with the champaran meat, and people have appreciated for that as well. So we keep trying new dishes in the menu so that we are able to cater to all the generations.
I think Farzad told me about the bun maska and the keema pav, which is there. But I think the chili chicken 10 packets from Delhi, what was that story?
There's a regular gentleman that comes from Delhi, and he would place this chili chicken order, and he would tell us whether it was at the railway station or at the airport that we had supposed to deliver to him. And because he is a regular customer for us, we always go out of our way and do the delivery to him. But he's fond of our chili chicken.
And Jigan, you were talking about the various cuisines, which is just not South Indian, so it's Andhra, Chettinad. So what all does it comprise? The Kongu region is something which you specialize.
We are very typically South Indian, very regional cuisine. So I would say if you have to define Annapurna, it will be probably a very regional South Indian Kongu style kind of food. Because like every other state, Tamil Nadu has its own variety right from south to north. So we probably specialize in the Kongu region, which is around Coimbatore, Erode, Salem, that belt. So it's a little, the flavors are a little different from the rest, like the Chettinad or whatever. It's a little different. So that's where we specialize in. Like we said, most like what he said, our restaurants also, most of the times, we don't even give menus.
Right.
Because it kind of people make up their mind as to what they're going to eat before they even walk into restaurants,
And Deepak was telling us about the Burmese cuisine, which is something which is more than Bengali that goes in your...
Not really Burmese cuisine. I just mentioned that one of our popular dishes is what they call chimu andi curry, which was actually, it came out of necessity because my father's partner was a refugee from Burma, and there were about 18 of them living in a small flat and did not have very many means, or rather they weren't, they couldn't afford to have a big sort of a fancy meal. So Auntie Chimu out of there decided that she would feed everybody by using a lot of chilies. So she made this chicken curry, which was more giblets that she would pick up from the market because they cost less. Make it nice and spicy and serve it with a lot of rice. It was so spicy you couldn't have too much of it, so it served the purpose. But people still ask for that chimu curry. So in the Burmese sense, okay, we have your kauswe and things, but chimu curry is what
A favorite.
my restaurant, we get a request every day.
Right. On the recipes, we were looking at these gentlemen with all these years. How does recipes work? And I think Farzad said, no, there are no recipes. Namit said, yes, Dad had done this exercise. Deepak was saying about the blogs, and I think that's something, a website has a wonderful kind of,
My son, who is now running Trinkers, he's third generation, and he came out with this quirky project called the Trinkers Timeline Project. It's full of blogs, people's experiences, anecdotes, photographs, and it seems to have got the attention of the diaspora, meaning Calcutan diaspora, which is spread all over the globe. And you'll be amazed to see how many people have responded with photographs, with memories, and we've collected a collection is huge now, and it all because of one project that he started. We've got photographs. People say that, they're relating their experience at Trinkers and their connection with Trinkers. I had my first date there. That was the first restaurant my parents took me to. I proposed to my fiancée there. I got interviewed by my father-in-law there. So, it makes up for interested reading, and it sort of builds a community, a Trinkers community. And we find that international recognition gives our brand a little more weight and credence.
but Deepak, I should compliment you on your website. If friends, you have time, please go into trinkers.in. Very well documented. Coming to the next point, are these brands trademarked? And I awfully lost a case for Rajdhani in Dubai. But when I asked these gentlemen, each one of their brands have been trademarked. But when I asked Farzad for Leopold, he said there was some case that came up in Nagpur. Deepak said quite a few of these kind of copyright issues with the brand have come up with him also. Namit said notices and stuff has been ongoing, while Jagan said, yes, there are matters which have reached the court also. So something which probably is always a fight for the better. In terms of equipment, all of us have seen this chapati plate in most of our kitchens. But when you see these and what I was able to break so many prototypes and do this kind of a thing, it churns out chapatis, the fulkas and everything in huge numbers. But I was asking Farzad, and he had an experience of going to a place where there were tower glasses for beers. So could you tell me, did you buy them and did you bring them in Leopold?
The tower beer was like when I was on one of my trip to Canada. I saw this tower beer, the cylindrical can in a souvenir shop. And I said to myself, if draft beer is supposed to be served to my customer, it's supposed to be on tap. Though we poured the beer out of the tap, but the customer is not pouring the beer into his glass in the tap. So I thought of buying these tower beers, bringing it to Bombay, filling up those tower beers with the draft beer, and serving those cylindrical towers to the customer on the table so they can serve the draft beer in their own glass. I was the pioneer that started it in Leopold, and now it's taken over all over India. Everybody has the tower. All beer companies is getting their own tower, having their own.
Today, are all of us on our conventional vendors, or have we migrated to the online platform? Could you throw some light, Namit? You were talking about Amazon or Zomato.
We do have our vendors that are supplying us from the last 20, 30 years, and we still are working with them. However, we keep a check on the market prices and make sure that the suppliers are giving the same brand at the same price or a lesser price. And we do also have tied up with Hyperpure from Zomato. But we are buying the same brand and we're not compromising on that.
Okay. On the rent part, I think we have a standard in the industry for about 15% of our sales going in for rents. But I think, Jagan, you were telling me 5 to 7% is something that...
No.
9% is something which you
See,
were...
what happens is, I think, in my experience, Kamlesh, rent is kind of inversely proportional to your food cost. Okay, is what I see.
Right.
So if you are in an industry where your food costs are, very controlled, less than 30%, you're in the mid 20s to 30s, then I think you can have a little bit buffer on the rent. Okay, but typically in our kind of very fast casual South Indian, regional cuisine where the prices are very limited, so then the rent plays a very critical role. So I cannot afford to pay a 15% rental from my outlet because it's just not going to be feasible for me because my food costs are very high.
Right.
So typically today, the older locations, we're lucky we found them at a better price. But now I think we are pushing at about 6 to 9% is where we'll probably end up in the next 2 to 3 years. But that will also put a strain on us. So we have to kind of see what we can do, kind of find the next growing areas where we can, go in a little early, find a better location, kind of lock it in for a longer period.
While you're on it, I would also ask you about your inclusive policy that you have about employing people who are with disabilities. And
Absolutely.
I have a fantastic example in my own establishment of a person who's hearing impaired. But you can tell us about your 50% of target that you have, 40%.
See, I mean, we started about 15 years back, our gender diversity was very, very low, predominantly male dominated. Now, consciously, we've been pushing for the last 10 years, and now we're about 40% female and 60% male. So we've seen that change quite a bit. We have women in almost every aspect of this. That is number one. And number two is then we also, like you said, the people with disabilities, how to kind of engage them. So we actively cases where manual labor is more used. We are also using people with mobility issues. We can put them in places where they don't have to move, on the billing side, on the computer side. We do that also. So where we've not been able to crack probably is on the, like I said, in the transsexual side, we're not able to. We've tried doing some programs, but somehow it's not working out for us.
We'll come to this out of the premises kind of thing, and probably that will be the last topic that we'll throw light upon, where I'll ask Namit to throw some light on a case study about online deliveries and how packaging and everything is different.
Actually, in earlier 1990s or 2000s, and before that as well, the focus was mainly on dining business, and it was very less on the delivery part. And online deliveries did not exist at that time. But certain factors that have led to the growth of online deliveries. Number one, upgradation of technology, widespread adoption of smartphones, internet became easily accessible, and changing and busy lifestyles of customers. These are the factors that has led to the growth of online delivery business, and some of the aggregators came into the picture around 2008 to 2012 at that time. So this was a time when we saw that that people are showing interest for that, and we're getting good response on online deliveries. It was the time when we also launched our own website. We can give better offers compared to aggregators, since we do not have to give any commissions. So we can give better offers, and it was a time when it was during COVID time that online delivery business gained momentum, since people did not have any option to go out for dining, and delivery was the only option possible. So that was a time when delivery business increased, and this was again at this time we realized that how we can cater to wider audience and how can we reach out to people. So that is the time when we increased our delivery radius, and we started delivering everywhere in Delhi NCR. We still do that, and we got a very good response from people. We also, since aggregators who are in the market, they don't deliver everywhere. So that was the advantage that we had. We could do that from our website, and we also encourage people to order from our website. And since we have better offers, and we are not paying commission to the aggregators, and we also worked on our packaging. Since in today's era, we see that many younger generation, they want everything as a complete package. They want good food, everything, and good packaging as well. They want a complete package. So we have worked on our packaging, and we have made it more modern and classier, so that people of all the ages should like it. And I would like to share a fact that the online delivery business was just 0.4 billion USD in around 2010, 2012, but now it has increased to 36 billion USD in 2023, and is increasing by 15% every year. So that is a great opportunity for all of us that we focus on this delivery business as well, and we can definitely expand that as well.
Does it also include dehydrated food?
No.
Anybody doing dehydrated food for these students going abroad or anything like that?
No, we don't.
So, gentlemen, we close this session. We've at least come to an end of the entire discussion. Do we have time for a question from anybody? No. Okay. So, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. We had a wonderful time talking about our brands.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Barod, for this fabulous, moderating of this session. In order to do the honors for the mementos, I would now like to invite on stage the executive member of FHRAI. Please put your hands up for Mr. DVS Somaraju. And just as was the order of appearances on the stage, so would be the orders of memento. So we would like to start. Ladies and gentlemen, old is gold, and truly we have a gold mine on the stage this morning. And we would like to start by saying a big thank you to Farzad sir. Mr. Farzad Jehani. A big thank you to Mr. Deepak Puri. Mr. Kamlesh Barod, thank you so much, sir, for all that you did for this session for us. Mr. Namit Gulati, keeping Pandara Road alive. And of course, a big thank you to Mr. Jagan Damodar Sami. Gentlemen, please step up for a group picture. And while that happens, ladies and gentlemen, remember, old is gold, but when you're talking about kitchens, old is mold. Never forget that. With this, as we move on, it's time for me to make a couple of special announcements before I announce my next panel coming right up. Here are the names for the lucky winners of yesterday's bumper draws at the stall. Each one of these winners have won a stay at one of the most coveted properties in India. They could either be Taj Bekal and a whole lot of other properties.